back to we opened. Hey, I hope to God that here. Let me put this down. Last 15 years. And before we get Merrill on here, look at all the noise that's going on in Dallas, New York, Washington, and it's not going on in Philly. It's not going on in Philly. All they're doing is getting ready for the football season. And with that being said, our good friend Merrill Reese, he joins us now here. And Merrill.
Hi.
A lot of noise going on in Dallas right now, New York, Washington with ownership. And here are the Eagles getting ready for the season.
That's right. All they did was we went in today to get our NFC championship rings. That was it.
Oh, wait. Did you get yours?
Yeah.
Can I see it?
Can you see it? Just a minute.
All right.
See? Can you bring me my ring?
Ah! Like the Pope.
Can you bring me my ring, please, honey?
Oh, my God. I want to see
right
this
there.
thing.
I'm in the bedroom.
Oh, my God. That's fantastic. So the whole team got their rings today?
Now, the team had gotten the rings a little bit earlier, but the rest of the organization got them today.
Oh, so people in the front office, the coaching staff then?
I think they may have gotten them earlier, but I think all the different departments, everybody in the building got a ring.
Oh, my God. That is so gangster by the owner. The owner gave everyone. They traditionally don't do it. Some places don't. Here it is.
He did this with the Super Bowl, too. We all got rings.
Here it is. Let me see this thing,
Okay,
Merrill.
wait a moment. I have to get it out of this. I've got
Excuse
to
me.
get it out of the case. It's in a beautiful case that lights up. But I will give you the exact ring in just a second. Okay.
All right, folks. You are now looking at the NFC Championship
The
ring
NFC
here.
Championship ring. It's almost as large as the Super Bowl ring, Dan.
Put it up there.
Tell me if you can see this. Hold on. Here we go.
Raise it up a little more. There, little to the left. There it is. There it is. Look at that.
Just a few diamonds.
Look at that thing, man.
That
is so awesome.
I'll show you how large it is. I'll put it on for a second. Okay.
Oh. Well, I'll tell you what, you'll have no problems at Wawa wearing that thing if anybody tries jumping you.
True. The problem is every time I shake hands with people, I feel like my knuckles are breaking. That's the problem with the Super Bowl ring. I'm not complaining. They're beautiful and I love them, but they're not practical for everyday wear.
Merrill, isn't that really wonderful to be part of an organization like that you not only get a chance to do your dream job, but you get a chance to do dream moments and convey it to your community.
But here's the great thing, Dan. I do not work for the Eagles. I work for Odyssey Broadcasting. And our entire crew, including our producer, Joe McPeak, received this ring.
Wow.
Yeah.
But Merrill, we all know this. If the Eagles didn't like you, it ain't working like that. Oh, I love that.
They're great people. Jeffrey is a wonderful owner.
Absolutely. Merrill, I heard you on WIP the other day. You made a comment I'd like for you to expand on it a little bit.
Uh-oh.
To this day, you believe that you guys were the better team in that Super Bowl. Tell me why you think that.
Well, I do. I do, but the better team won. I mean, the fact of the matter is the team that deserves to say they're the better team is the team that won the game, and that was Kansas City. So I wasn't trying to take any credit away from Kansas City because they deserved it. I just felt that Hurts played a tremendous game, but that one fumble that resulted in the scoop and score changed everything.
Do you agree, Merrill, that, and I agree with you, I believe that the Philadelphia Eagles had the better roster and the better roster of talent in that game, but it came down to coaching and the quarterback, Merrill. I mean, and they would have had to have learned that was maybe more of a learning experience for this young team because there's such a great energy and vibe going into this 23 season I believe maybe that loss is going to fuel this team where some teams haven't been able to get back to that game.
I don't know that a loss fuels them. Dick Vermeil once told me that losing never does anything good.
He's
But
right.
this team is motivated and they're workers. Listen, Andy Reese, a great coach, but Nick Sirianni did a terrific job. And Jalen Hurts just played a great game. But two plays changed that game. And I know there's a lot of fans on the talk shows who blame Jonathan Gannon and the defensive scheme in the second half. And there are those who blame the condition of the field, which was deplorable, but both teams played on it. And there are a lot of people who said that the holding penalty on Bradbury should never have been called, but it was holding, and Bradbury admitted it. Maybe it should have been called earlier in the game, the same type of thing, but regardless, it was holding. But there are two plays. There are two plays that would have changed that game. One was the scoop and score because the Eagles were driving again. That was a huge mistake. And the other was the 65-yard punt return that they gave up late in that game. Those are the two big plays. So, I may feel that the Eagles had the better roster and, by a little bit. And I thought that Hurts absolutely held up well against Mahomes. If you're going to look at the performances of both quarterbacks, he was just as good that day. But those are the reasons. Those are the two plays that I believe cost the Eagles that game.
I would also add this one, the Quez drop. I thought that was a key point in the game too, Merrill.
Yeah, but these are plays that could have changed the outcome.
Yeah.
Could have. But they were not the killers.
Merrill, do you think this team could be better than last year?
Could they? I'd settle for them being just as good, to be honest with you, because they rolled through this season at a very impressive clip. So as we stand here now, or sit here, I think the Eagles, on paper, are the best team in the NFC. But games aren't won on paper. And I always say, I was doing an appearance this morning, and they said, do you think the Eagles will be back there again next year and have a chance to win their second Super Bowl? And I said, I think they're talented enough today, but the wrong three injuries at the wrong parts of the season change everything. Can change everything. You know what? I don't know about you, Dan, but I have never taken out a pen when they announce the schedules in April and start putting W's and L's down because they don't mean anything in April. If you can tell me who's going to line up for the Eagles and who's going to line up for the Cowboys on December 10th in Dallas, I might have a pretty good idea about who I think will win that game. But you can't do that. If you had put me on the spot last year and asked me about the game in Dallas, I would have given you a result based on Jalen Hurts, not Gardner Minshew being the quarterback. So you don't know. You don't know. That's what makes this whole thing intriguing. They're good. They're good enough to win a Super Bowl. Will it happen? None of us have that kind of crystal ball.
What I always do, Merrill, is I'll use July 19th. I'll always say to people when they ask me, what do you think, Dan? Is this a 12-win team? I always say this. Well, let's look at rosters on July 19th. I always put an asterisk, Merrill, on that because, like you said, this traditionally comes down to the war of attrition. And if you have the deepest team, which the Eagles did a year ago, and I don't think they have as deep I'll take that back. I think they could be as deep, but it's less experienced of a roster than it was a year ago of NFL talent. They could have higher ceilings. Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, N'Kobe, that all, like you said, it's pie in the sky stuff. So I look at rosters. Do they have the best roster? Yes, them at San Francisco, and I would say the linchpin is obviously the quarterback position in Philly. I think the coach in San Francisco is a little bit overhyped. You got to eventually put your name on the test, don't you?
Is Brock Purdy,
you got to win.
Is Brock Purdy the quarterback?
I guess. Right. No, I'm with you. I'm like, plus, is Brock Purdy, was he an anomaly? Was that a 1-year deal? Was
He
Geno
did a
Smith
very good
1 year?
job. I'm not taking anything away from him, but he is a young quarterback who is not really proven. He hasn't done what Hurts has done over the last couple of seasons. Hurts is a great talent. He really is. Anyone who thinks that it's all hard work, yeah, nobody works harder than Jalen Hurts, but he's gifted. He's very, very gifted. He should have been a first-round draft pick if people recognized that. But I have an Our Lads Guide to the NFL Draft, and I read that, I came back and read it again last year. And when he was a senior in Oklahoma, they called him the player with the biggest upside in the draft. And he was. He has turned out to be a great young quarterback. Will Purdy be that way? I mean, he was drafted with the last pick in the draft, and he did remarkable things. But I don't know that he has a remarkable talent in every aspect. I'm not sure.
Well, Merrill, here's what happens to quarterbacks, and here's what happens to a lot of people when you get into the NFL. You could go on a stretch run of 10, 11, 12 games, especially at the quarterback position. You could go on a stretch like that because there's not game film on you. Once these coordinators get the game film on you and they start getting your tendencies of what you do and what you can't do, Merrill, that's when you really have to improve. Right. And that's where Jalen improved.
And will continue to improve. I mean, this guy has worked every day. This guy wants nothing more than to be the very, very best in the game. And I think he's right up there now. I think he's a top 3 or 4 quarterback. I really believe that. I mean, you'll get guys on talk shows who want to make reputations and say he's not a top 10 quarterback for some reason. He's a top 3 or 4 quarterback right now.
He is definitely there. Let me say this to you. I brought this up about Fletcher Cox, and I didn't realize how close it was that he was a Hall of Fame guy. 6 Pro Bowls, 2 NFC championship rings, a Super Bowl ring, as many sacks almost as Adama Sue. In the last 15 years, has he been the Philadelphia Eagles' most consistent and best football player?
Probably not. Very, very good and Hall of Fame worthy when you're talking about the achievements. But can you say he's been Lane Johnson? Then Jason Kelsey? Brandon Graham has been terrific for 14 years after the first couple. But, I mean, I'm not saying that he's not one of their most consistent football players, but I wouldn't put him ahead of Kelsey and Lane Johnson over these years. I mean, Kelsey's a 6-time Pro Bowler too.
You know, Merrill, but here's where I go with Fletcher. Fletcher Cox, though, everyone was like, he had a really good season, but you know what? He kind of stumbled a little bit, at the beginning. He had 7 sacks and 50 tackles.
Yeah.
If you get that from any defensive tackle in the NFL, I mean, if Jordan Davis puts that up this year, Merrill, that'll be a grand slam for the NovaCare Center.
Dan, it sounds like I'm fighting against the good things you're saying about Fletcher Cox. I'm not. I like him personally, and I respect him professionally, and I think he's a great football player. But is what you just talked about any more impressive than Lane Johnson not giving up a sack in 2 years?
No, and no. Again, and it's unfair sometimes too, Merrill.
It's apples and oranges.
But the definition of right tackle will always be on the evaluation of him. Now, the game has changed, Merrill, from when you first got in it, and the right tackle position was considered that's the guy you put there if he failed at left tackle. There's no longer that because you have multiple fronts now. You put guys everywhere. You move them all around. It's not just the blindside guy anymore. So that it's maybe it's just too much old school thinking for me because It's right tackle versus a D tackle. That's a disruptive guy and has been a disruptive player for 15 years.
You make a good point. And again, I'm not disagreeing with you.
I know.
I'm only saying that these other guys are right along with Fletch.
Absolutely. Last question for you here. The coordinators. Is it concerning that they're the least experienced guys in the league?
No.
Why?
Because how about the fact that Brian Johnson has known Jalen Hurts since Jalen was 6 years old and tried to recruit him to Mississippi State and has worked with him for these past couple of years and knows everything about him. And you still have Nick Sirianni overseeing the entire defense, the entire team, actually. And in Sean Desai, Jonathan Gannon was a young coach when he came in here, and I know he has his detractors. I'm not one of them. He still had a defense that held the opponents last year at 17 points or less per game. He did a terrific job. That's why he's now a head coach. But Sean Desai has credentials, and he's a disciple, as you know, of Vic Fangio, and that tells you a lot. So I'm not concerned.
You know, hey, I want to expand on this one last thing here with you, Merrill, about Brian Johnson. I had a conversation with Dan Mullen. I didn't realize that he was the offensive coordinator with Dan Mullen in Florida, and he was the offensive coordinator in 2014 with Mississippi State. And guess who else? With Dak Prescott.
Mm-hmm. Right.
He was the guy that was essential in the offensive production and also of the development of Dak, to where Dak went from being a nothing at Mississippi State to having them ranked number 1 at one time during the year. And now Dak Prescott's a $50 million guy. So where my point is, Merrill, is that here's a guy that's actually developed and has a developed quarterback on his resume. So he has to be considered the guy that's essential in at least part of it in his development. And I'm talking Hurts.
And that's why they wasted no time in naming the offensive coordinator. I mean, they knew all along that if Jonathan went, Brian Johnson was the guy, that they wouldn't have to go shopping.
Absolutely. Merrill, I love the ring, man. That thing is just, look here. No, a little more over, because I'm going to take a screenshot of that. Look at that thing, folks. Little higher. There it is, right? Little to the left, right? There you go. That's awesome. Merrill, how's the golf game?
Good.
Yeah?
Good. Playing well. Steady.
Shooting your age? I'll leave it there.
I'm not talking age. No, I haven't shot a 51 yet.
Hey, thank you very much. 6 days to training camp. Our legendary friend, Merrill Reese, always finding time. Thank you so much. Congratulations. A beautiful ring on you being presented that. Thank you so much, Merrill.
Thank you, Dan.
You bet. That's our good friend, Merrill Reese there. Absolutely awesome, man. Hey, Tone, we got to get a shot of that thing. We got to, hey, James, we got to get a screenshot of that thing, man. That's how you do it, baby. Hey, and you know what, too? You know what's crazy? Everyone goes, Sills, it's second place. No. No. It's the collection. I have an NFC champion, really, actually 2 NFC championship. So Merrill could go like this. I've got 2 NFC championship rings and a Super Bowl ring. That's what you're doing here, okay? It's not just, you don't walk around with the NFC title ring. You walk around with the NFC title ring and a Super Bowl ring. So that when you walk in, hey, when you're walking,